Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Zahab here. We are still buzzing at the Dubai Blockchain Conference 2020, and we have two more incredible interviewers today in Amir Taaki and Rose O'Leary from DarkFi, developers at DarkFi. Want to kick things off. How has DarkFi been in 2021?
We just announced the project literally 2 weeks ago. Our Telegram channel is already over 1,000 people in a short space of time. A lot of people want to help the project. Said it was the best talk at ListCon. So we have a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think people, the whole kind of people are a bit burnt out from the NFTs and Metaverse kind of fantasy world stuff that's coming out of crypto, and DarkFi is emerging as something more real. It's also a movement more than it is a single project or company, so it's very welcoming in that way. Lots of people want to get involved.
Talk to me about testnet. How's that been so far, and what have you guys learned?
Okay, so testnet was probably a misnomer. Testnet is probably a misnomer. It's actually more of a prototype, but really what it demonstrates is the underlying cryptography, and then we put together a network to kind of showcase that. So that's been really useful in terms of the first stage of the release process. But the next step is, we have some pretty big steps ahead in terms of, basically putting on a blockchain, and also swapping out some of the core cryptography.
And talk to me about the plans for 2022 and 2023. Growth plans in particular.
Yeah, so our technical development schedule is right now we have several parallel development targets. One of which is the blockchain, one of which is switching to or upgrading to our new P2P network that we've developed, and the third thing is switching on our Halo 2 upgrade. So those, since the release, we've switched back to stage 0 of our development cycle. Development cycles go through stages 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So stage 0, the team can relax, engage in a bit of research, exploration, integrate new features as we go further along in that roadmap, with a focus on those three things I mentioned: the network, the blockchain, and the ZK. Then the things will become more tight. There'll be a bit more pressure. So right now the team's fairly relaxed. We don't like to set deadlines, because it's very hard creative work. But I'd say we're about 6 to 8 months off. I guess a testnet or a public release. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So the next major release is the second testnet, which will be the actual blockchain and the Halo 2 constructs, and then that's just before basically mainnet. That's when the mainnet's basically ready, but we just want to test it a little bit more. And I'd say within a year, optimistically.
And from a demographics perspective or standpoint, who are your main users? Who are you going after?
I have a lot of Iranians and Kurds and people from Middle East contact. I had some guys from North Africa going, "Hey brother, we really like the project." So I think there's probably a wellspring of people who have been shut out of all the normal kind of KYC coin list kind of auctions. So we're going to do something that's a bit more open to everyone. So we're not Western centric. We do have a presence, heavy presence in Europe, not so much in the US, but Asia, Middle East, Europe. That's kind of where we're thinking at the moment.
How is your view on financial privacy changing amongst the general public? And do you see any mega trends amongst financial privacy changing in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to privacy, there was an interesting kind of watershed moment some months ago, I guess it was 6 months to a year ago, where WhatsApp released like a new privacy policy, and there was a mass exodus to Signal. So I think that phenomenon like really captures that people are fed up with this incessant surveillance happening in all areas of their life. The vaccine passports is just another example of this, and you know, there's a natural extension of that into the financial sphere.
Yeah, I'd also say that the Edward Snowden disclosures, which happened a few years ago, you know, like before, like a lot of the talk around like, you know, surveillance apparatus by people was seen as like conspiracy theory talk. You know, there was a lot of like, I remember like a lot of hackers and like techie people kind of going, oh, London has the most amount of CCTV cameras in the world. Like, obviously they're using that footage. They're like using AI, and then people kind of looked at them and be like, nah, like you're being a bit strange. But then Edward Snowden disclosures came out, and then people were like, oh, actually they were right all along. So that's really put that in the forefront of people's attention. So I feel like people as well, people are becoming very poor in the world now, and they really feel a sense of injustice, economic injustice, that a lot of wealth and power is concentrated. And so what like our system of politics has done for a long time, you know, like you've got these politicians that are sophists, and they, you know, they go to the right schools, and they know how to talk, and they know how to like use the media to get themselves elected. So that kind of manipulation, you know, while it's worked to get them elected for, you know, like one election cycle, in the longer term has bred this like huge amount of distrust, like wide distrust in the society, where people feel like the information that they're getting from the media is just lies and propaganda, and they no longer trust it. It's a very unstable situation that people are living in, but that also feeds into the kind of crises that states are facing with immigration, with ecology, with new technologies, where, you know, they're in some sense they're losing power, and the way that they reassert power is through authoritarianism, or, you know, like using like automation and artificial intelligence and centralization of financial infrastructure, which leads to this concentration of wealth and actually exacerbate the underlying causes and the underlying problems. So it's like a catch-22 situation where they're printing money into oblivion because they want to like escape out this crisis, but the money's not going into the hands of people. It's like accumulating. It's like an organism where the blood flow, there's like internal bleeding, and it's not reaching the like the end limbs. You know, it's just aggregating in one part. So it's kind of like that with the money printing. It's not going out into the wider economy. It's just going into like a few banks. So there is a lot of distrust from people, and I feel like people are looking for an escape, and that is, I think, the main reason why people are looking at crypto is as a like escape hatchet, you know, like a way that to take like a cat. There's like this incoming storm, and it's like for them like a little vessel, like a lifeboat that they can use to travel across to safety to reach land.
And trends for 2022 and 2023, what are you two looking at?
I mean, I'm obviously biased, but really the zero knowledge, the advances that it's made, it's never been more practical to deploy anonymous software. So I think we haven't even seen the beginning of this. So that this is really going to, in the next 5 years, this is really going to be like a major trend.
And the Metaverse, it's probably going to win Oxford Dictionary's 2021 Word of the Year. What is your take on the Metaverse?
Yeah, so about your question and about the Metaverse. So 2019, 2020.
2022.
When Corona happened, that was
2020.
2020, yeah. So 2020, you know, there was a big market crash, and then, you know, Bitcoin went all the way down to 3K. But that narrative around like store of value was very strong. Bitcoin went all the way up to 60K. Then there was a drop in the market. Then the market shifted to alternative layer ones. Part of this like mindset of like network-based thinking, where we're moving away from like one cryptocurrency for one blockchain to like many different networks integrate and value flows in and out of them. So we had like the whole like big Solana Palm, Phantom, Polygon, many different like L1s and L2s. Then, interestingly, now there's been a lot of talk about ArtFi, GameFi, social media fi. I think that's part of like a wider Web3 trend, which is kind of picking up. But I think ultimately, with the regulators and incoming pressure against crypto, there's going to be like a kind of winter, impending crypto winter, where it's going to be a tough situation. It's going to be very messy. Like we already saw that Arthur Hayes was like arrested. He was being too like blasé to the regulators, and so they tried to make an example out of him. FTX, Alameda, they just moved from Hong Kong to Bahamas. So there's very much a process now where crypto people are being pushed to the periphery. It's one of the reasons why Dubai is coming up. So that's why we think like also DeFi is really interesting, decentralized finance. So we see ultimately that like the crypto is going to split into two, which one will be RegFi, which is be like completely bolted down and unusable, and you'd need to like use documents to do anything, and it will be just like untenable. And the rest of crypto will be pushed underground into what we call DarkFi, like completely like unhindered exploration and growth. So that's ultimately the narrative that we're looking towards, that we see coming up, maybe post 22. We don't know, like could be later, but that's like what we see the next big evolution. Which a lot of people think that like if this pressure come onto crypto, which will decrease the value of the crypto market a lot, there will be like a substantial loss of like market price, but ultimately could be very healthy. Like extinction events in natural history, they were kind of like they always cleared the ecological system, allowed new forms of life to kind of prosper and compete for the new ecological niches that were opened up. Same thing as well with the Black Death in Europe. Like it was like a mass extinction event, and it allowed like a lot of political transformation, new like, because before there were all these like old families and aristocrats that were holding back. So kind of like clearing out of crypto will, we think, happen, but then that will be like a tough like period of survival, but whoever makes it out of that period will prosper and thrive, and ultimately the entire crypto space will kind of boom, and not really much can stop it.
And
just add to that really quickly. If there is this like kind of event that he's described, there will be a radicalization process, and I think crypto will come out stronger because it will have to reassert its autonomy and its ideology in order to sustain the winter.
And last question, let's take a step inside the hot take factory. Bitcoin price predictions for January 1st, 2022 and January 1st, 2023.
Okay, I think Bitcoin's probably going to go to 100K and then crash after December. A lot of people are saying that. The fact that everyone's saying it makes it feel more real.
Yeah, but I might front run everyone and exit at 80K. I'm like more. I was very bullish on Bitcoin like a few months ago. Now I'm like not so sure about Bitcoin.
I think there has to be some kind of grand finale. It's not going to just peter out.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is if we're seeing a drop in Bitcoin dominance in the overall markets. So if there's two ways that can go. Either Bitcoin market dominance reasserts itself, and then Bitcoin like reclaims its number one spot, or Bitcoin market dominance is broken. I'm leaning slightly more towards that point of view. But if that happens, the market volume will not move all to Ethereum, because now that illusion of ultimate store of value will be kind of shattered, and we'll likely see all of the liquidity bleed down into basically maybe leapfrog over Ethereum into other L1s and L2s. And what the crypto space will experience is this period of like hyper-capitalist, hyper-competitive, phase where everybody's like trying to grab the liquidity, and there's a lot of like development, and it will also be ultimately healthy for crypto.
Yep, just to add briefly, like irrespective of any kind of impending bear market, we still are in a situation of hyperinflation, globally. So that macro environment is not going to change. That's ultimately bullish for Bitcoin and all of crypto, especially cryptos have like a more deflationary policy. Ethereum is now going that route with the ETH 1559. There was a couple of days last month where it was deflationary for the first time. It still has like a slight inflation most days, but it's definitely contracting in terms of its supply.
Really appreciate the time, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done.